Hey everyone, welcome back to Japan. So for today's video I thought I would start kind of a new series. If people are interested in a series, I don't know, let's find out. So I thought I'd try something new. I'm going to title this Sensei What? That's something that my kids say all the time in class. I thought it might have been like a pop culture reference or something, but I think that's genuinely, ooh, I teach English. I genuinely think that the kids think that that's how you say you don't know. So they're always just going, Sensei, what? And I think it's funny, but then all of the other kids started thinking it was funny, so they'll raise their hand and then just respond with that. So it's a little annoying at this point. But anyway, that's what I'm titling this series, and it's basically going to be maybe funny stories that happened to me while I'm at school, school life in general. For those of you that don't know, I teach at 2 elementary schools and I teach at 1 middle school. This is for English in Japan. So, for this video, I want to kind of talk about what it was like for me when I first started. So basically, I started applying for jobs in the summer, I think in the summer, August, maybe a little earlier. I went online and just started putting in some applications, and eventually I got a few responses back. Actually, it was pretty quick. I was surprised at how quick the responses did come. Within a week I had, I think, 3 interviews lined up, and then a week later I had 2 offers. So it went very quickly, and then after that the entire process was just a whirlwind. So you have all this paperwork you have to do, all this crazy stuff, your visas, much less getting Ash's visa. We brought our cat to Japan. That's a whole other crazy situation. Don't try to bring your pets to Japan. It's kind of insane, especially coming from America. Other countries, it was worth it, but
a lot.
Yes, very much so, and highly stressful. But anyway, once we landed, everything I thought was over. All of the difficulties. We have friends here. We have our families being super supportive back home. I thought everything was lined up good. And then training rolls around. Training is another whirlwind. We had about a week for my situation. Some places give you more, some places give you less. It all depends. But we had about a week. Got to meet a lot of great people. Some people I still keep in contact with, so that's fantastic. We all help each other out with our classes and stuff, so that's really cool. So kind of after training, well, during training, they'll give you all of this information about what it's like in school, what to expect from your textbooks, from the other teachers, things like that. And you kind of think you have it figured out. You get to play with the materials a little bit, play around with the software, read the book, and then time comes for you to move to wherever they've decided to put you. For us, that was Aizu Wakamatsu in Fukushima. Sugi's here. Say hi, Sugi. Oh, he did. Yes, we're in Aizu Wakamatsu in Fukushima. So that's northern Japan. Probably about 4 hours north of Tokyo by car. If you take the highway. Yeah. And that was not at all what we expected. Another crazy situation there. Basically, we were allowed to put in where we wanted to go, and then they took that into consideration when they told you where you were going. I love it up here, no complaints at all. It's fantastic. If you have an opportunity, definitely come visit. It's a great place to be. But so you finally get moved in, you go to your location, find your apartment, whatever you have to do, and about 3 days later, not even, no, we got up here because we had to find our own apartment. We got up here the day before I had to go meet all of the schools. Luckily, I do have a coordinator that came up and took me to the schools and showed me around, introduced me to everybody. They had a talk back and forth. I got to meet some of the teachers. That was all really cool. Probably spent about 30 minutes at each location, so not nearly as much time as I would have liked to. My middle school, I went in and we actually interrupted a teacher meeting, and that meant that me and my friend that also teaches at that same school, we had to give our self-introductions to the entire staff right there without any warning. All of our previous locations, we only had to meet with the principal and vice principal and our direct teacher that we were working with. Whew, that's a lot of talking. It's a very intensive process coming here. Anyway, so that happened, and then maybe 2 weeks passed before school actually starts. And for me and most of the other teachers, we were really anxious to just get into the classroom and start teaching. That doesn't actually start happening until second or third week of school. So a lot of times we would show up and there might just be an entrance ceremony for a few hours and then you get sent home. There might just be some planning for a little bit, and if your teachers don't need you, they just send you home. And depending on where you go, your schools will have various levels of English experience. So if you're in a middle school or higher, the teachers you work with are going to be fantastic. They're going to be basically fluent in English. They might have a few questions about odd phrasing and stuff like that. But for the most part, they're going to be doing all of the work for you. And like middle school, I kind of consider my day off. It's not really, but I get to go in and I get to have fun with the kids, talk to them in the hallways, and in class, I help the teacher control the classroom dynamics. I might get to play a game with the kids, but for the most part, I'm there to read out of the textbook and have the kids repeat me so they can hear what real pronunciation sounds like. Say, stop it. Okay, so on to elementary school. Now, elementary school is kind of the complete opposite situation of middle school. In elementary school, a lot of times you'll find that the assistant teacher, which is what I am, has to take on the front role. And that's because in elementary school, English isn't considered a graded subject yet. In middle school, it's graded. They have to have tests. So there's a main teacher employed through the Board of Education that is assigned to teach English. So they have to speak English very well. In elementary school, English is just an activity until next year. Next year, all of the assistant language teachers, the ALTs, they will be taking that side step and allowing the main teacher to be the head because they will have to be grading papers and things like that. That being said, since English is an activity, you get a very wide range of classroom dynamics. Some of the kids are like super interested in it. They take really good notes. They practice a lot. They want to learn as much as they can. And some of the kids just like to kind of play around with their textbook and stuff. It's all fine. You have to keep moving. Allow those that do want to learn to continue to learn and try to get everyone else to participate as much as you can. But yeah, so going into my first week in elementary school, not quite knowing the level of English that would be understood, I went into my first class and that class was like fantastic. My main teacher does speak English for that class, and I kind of was under the impression that my main teachers would be coordinating all of the classes. Instead, what happens is all of the homeroom teachers run the class, and I go to each class or they come to my classroom if I have that. So it's very interesting. Something that works out great in one class can go terrible in another class. And that's something that I've had to learn and make adjustments quickly. My first couple weeks were mostly improv, I'd say, because I had no idea what to expect from each teacher until I had their class a couple times. So some of the classes, my teacher would basically just run the whole class. I would help with pronunciation just like in middle school, but for the most part, they were running it. And then maybe the very next class I would go in for the first time and the teacher would turn to me and be like, I don't know English, please teach my students English. And I would have to be like, oh, okay, let's do this, and kind of just jump straight into it. And that's been my experience with both of my elementary schools. As I've grown in relationships with the teachers and everything, and as they're preparing for next year having to be the teacher, it's given lots of opportunity to be able to talk and share ideas with those teachers and help them learn English as a language too. One of the coolest things was when I first started, one of my teachers didn't know basically any English at all. And during break times, she would come to me and ask me questions, and basically be learning what the students are learning. And we started like a little conversation time where I would speak in Japanese and she would speak in English back to me, and with the help of like Google Translate and stuff, I feel like we've learned a lot from each other. So that's something that's really cool. You'll probably have lots of experiences like that if you do end up teaching English. So one of the last things I want to touch on, because I don't know too much Japanese, I can get around town and everything just fine. I know how to shop and I can have casual conversations, but like detailed instructions and all of that is very difficult for me still. I am still learning. So that has been one of my biggest challenges. There's been many situations where I am sitting in the teacher's room or something and an announcement will go off and everyone leaves the teacher room and doesn't really tell me what's going on, and I kind of just sit there until someone either waves to me or kind of gives me a hint of what's going on. And I don't know how many times I've had somebody like say something to me and they think I understand because I'm nodding and smiling, but I'm not really getting it and I'm not sure what I've agreed to. But those are always fun. Nothing crazy or anything has happened, but unfortunately I'm still at the level where I can't understand everything, but they understand that and I understand that, and we kind of meet in the middle somehow. But yeah, there's lots of funny situations where maybe something is written on the board and it's all in like fancy kanji and everything, and I'm supposed to be at a certain spot at this time or whatever, and then that time rolls around and I had no idea. Yeah, so that's one of the biggest challenges, and only time has allowed me to fully kind of figure out what's going on. It's taken a lot of practice and a lot of like getting used to routine. I can read Japanese better than I can speak it now because I've had to interpret so many different things written on the board or on papers that are handed to me and things like that. So one of the highlights for teaching in Japan is how quickly I've been able to pick up Japanese just from being thrown into the situation. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up there. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed kind of hearing about my first couple weeks or months as an English teacher. If you're gonna be teaching English, leave a comment down below. Let me know where you're gonna end up being. Let me know if you have any questions, if you're a first-time teacher. And if you know somebody that's going to be teaching English in Japan, try to pass this video along to them. Anyway, I hope you found these stories entertaining and maybe a little educational, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Bye!